Hey, welcome to the Young, Dumb, and In Love podcast, where we talk about building stronger and healthier marriages. I'm Julian.
And I'm Brittany, and we want to thank you for being a part of the conversation.
Hey, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and leave us a review so that we can get more connected with you. Well, welcome back to Young, Dumb, and In Love. We're so glad that you guys have joined us today. We're actually going to continue our conversation from our last podcast, and we're excited to continue to talk about this to help you just work through these things if this is something you're dealing with, or if you know somebody who's dealing with this kind of stuff. We would love for you to send it to them so that we can be a part of their journey of getting free from porn.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do a quick recap. We talked about this in our episode right before this one. So if you're catching this one and you're like, hey, I feel like I'm missing something, it's because you are. Go back, listen to the one before this one. This is kind of like the follow-up / finale of the last one. Yeah. So to recap, some of the things we talked about in that podcast were how does porn affect marriage? Mm-hmm. So the first thing, and again, we're going to kind of fly through these because we've already touched on them. Yeah. But the first thing is intimacy is sacrificed. Mm-hmm. So obviously, intimacy is sacrificed. Real relationship is given up and forsaken for an imitation. Yep. The true purpose of sex is abandoned. Yep. Number 4, it breaks trust. Yep. Destroys self-esteem and causes selfishness. Yes. So those were kind of like the points we talked about last week, kind of hit on those, like how does it affect marriages? We did a lot of statistics as well. And so I don't know if you want to share that one. Yeah. Because I feel like this one was like... Yeah, we'll talk about those too. A lot of them are super like eye-opening. Yeah. You're like, what in the world? Like, really? Yeah. What does that even mean? I know, it's crazy. 68% of divorce cases involved one party meeting a new lover over the internet. 68%. I'm not shocked by that one at all, especially with today's internet. Like, between apps and everything that there is, it's so easy to access that kind of stuff. And I'm not shocked, but I am, because that's a lot of...
Well, I mean, just thinking about social media in general, just think about the things you see on social media and how easy it is to DM and reach out and just put yourself in a position that you don't have to try. Where when we were younger, that wasn't even a thing, so.
Well, and it used to take effort.
Yeah, it would take a lot of effort for sure.
And would be a slower process.
Yep.
I'm guessing too.
Basically,
because now it's okay, so if someone met someone and was going to have an inappropriate relationship, that took time.
It did. You had to build it. You actually had to
literally,
see them
you're right.
in person.
It's you can just send a message to someone, and within, I don't even know how long, you can be in a slippery slope of... I mean, it's at the tips of our fingertips, What was the other one?
56% involved one party having an obsessive interest in pornographic websites. And then another one is 70% of wives of sex addicts could be diagnosed with PTSD. Yeah. And that's actually, that one right there is really big deal to me, because our actions, we have to remember, every action that we have in our life, when I do something, it doesn't just affect me. It affects all the people around me. It affects my wife. It affects my girls. It affects everything around me. And so I think that's the part I wish more people would just grab a hold of for themselves. If I could just make better choices, very simply, right? If I could just make better choices, the people around me wouldn't be so affected by my bad choices, and if I make good choices, they're affected by my good choices, so it kind of goes all the way around. Yeah. And then porn increases marital infidelity by 300%. Okay, so that...
Sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around something that's more than 100%, right?
Yep. 100%, 300%.
But 300%. And so really what it's saying is porn is leading to infidelity. Yep. I mean, that's just, I'm not making that up. No. These are statistics that we found. We did research on, because obviously we never want to talk out of turn. It's always really important to us that we are really giving, strong background to these things, especially certain subjects that are so sensitive to talk about. Yeah. 300%. It's crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. Well, and just think about that. So if your chances of doing it are, 50% or whatever, it increases 300% from there. Like no matter what, you're inviting something into your life that's going to increase the possibility of you doing something that you were not meant to do, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm going to say it again. I'm trying to say things as much as we can, but once you compromise, you've chosen your side. If you open up the door and allow those things into your life, you've already chosen your side. You're letting those things into your life by opening up the door. And the best thing you can do is just keep the door stinking shut. Don't open the door at all. Just shut it, lock it, put double locks, triple locks, whatever you need to do. If it's something that you deal with, lock that piece up in your life and keep it away and fight it in your life every single day.
Okay, so really now, the reason why we were releasing these back to back because we kind of felt like, our heart here at YDL is always to make sure that we're providing tools and that we're being practical. We don't want to talk about something and then have people end an episode and go, well, shoot, like, great, you got me.
Now?
Yeah, that's me. I'm in that spot, but now I have no idea what to do. And so this continuation is, okay, here you are. Maybe you find yourself here. And I don't know, it could be very infrequent. You're like, hey, I don't know if I'm quite to this place yet. Or you could be sitting there listening and going, I have a real problem.
Yeah.
So we kind of sat down and brainstormed a few things, and these are going to sound really obvious, but they're practical steps that you can take if you find yourself in this place where, porn is affecting your marriage. Yeah. So the first one is to come clean.
Oh, yeah.
To your spouse. One to yourself. I think a lot of times you have to come to yourself. You have to be like,
well, a lot of people who have issues don't want to admit that they have an issue. So that it's so important to realize and come clean to yourself.
Come clean to yourself. And then to your spouse. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people right now that are like, no. Nope, we'll just stop doing it, But you need to come clean to your spouse. And then one thing that we've talked about, and we speak here from experience, sometimes it's good to have maybe a pastor or a mentor or someone who, loves you both and isn't necessarily on your side or their side, but you may need, depending on how severe it is and how you feel like your spouse is going to react, you may need that third person there.
For sure.
Just to kind of, be there for that support for both parties, because this is a big step, the coming clean, So,
and coming clean, what it does is it opens up the door, a different door, right? I like to talk about doors, obviously.
Clearly, a little Encanto fan or something.
I'm a huge Encanto fan. But when you come clean and you are honest with somebody, at least, what you do is you open up the door to a path of freedom, right? Yeah. And so when you are come clean and you say, hey, Britt, this is what I've been dealing with, and you come to your wife or you come to your husband and you tell them this is what I've been dealing with. And what they can do is there's two choices, obviously. I would hope that the spouse would turn and say, oh my gosh, let me help you. Let me do everything that I can.
Which that may not be the first reaction though. And you know what? That's okay.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. I would hope that they could. But,
I think if they're surprised by it, especially like this is going to be,
you would feel betrayed. Like you would feel betrayed
absolutely.
And unloved, and all the different insecurities would kind of flow through you.
You want that, but you need to prepare that your spouse may not react that way, and you need to 100%. Know that like this is on you.
Well, and I'm saying this.
Not saying
no. Well, I'm saying this too though because for the spouse who is the one getting told what's happening, right? Yeah. It's so important that they can just breathe. Take a step back and remember, okay, this is my spouse. I love them and I want them to be successful in life. And I don't want them to deal with this. Even though I feel betrayed and you have those things going through you, the best thing for you to do is to respond with love, understanding, grace, and really say, okay, I'm not happy. This really upset me, but I'm going to do everything that I can to help you, and thank you for being honest with me. And when you're able to respond in such a way, like I feel like your ability to come back from what you're dealing with is going to be so much stronger because your spouse is supportive and there for you in every step of the way. So, and then having a mentor in your life, like having somebody who can speak truth to you is so important because they're going to look at you and they're not going to care about your feelings. They're going to only care about your mind and your spiritual life. And that's why it's important to have a mentor or a pastor or somebody you can talk to.
But that leads to the second one, which is getting help. Find someone that you can talk to, pastor, friend, whatever that looks like. you need to get help.
Yeah.
Bottom line. Maybe it's a counselor. Maybe you decide to go see a counselor.
Well, I would say no matter what, you should see a counselor. Like,
well, of
you
course,
should sit down
but if you're
with a
not
counselor.
seeing one,
that's what I'm saying.
That's someone you could start talking to if you don't maybe have a local church or a pastor or a friend that you could talk to. Because you know what? Just because it's a friend doesn't mean it's the person you're going to talk to about it. Maybe your friend is like, hey, I don't see the problem with that. I don't, you know.
So true.
And that's the thing is like, if it's such a big thing in so many marriages, and maybe, you know, you might have a friend who's like, I'm not the person for that, you know?
Well, and that's where the counselor comes in. Like you, the best thing for you to do when you have that type of addiction is to get down to the bottom of the root, right? There's always a root to the issue. And why did that happen? Why did you go to that route? Where did this start? Like all that kind of stuff is super important to figure out. And so that's why we say, hey, go see a counselor. Let them help you walk through the issue that has caused you to go where you are today.
Yeah. And then get accountable, of course, like to the person that you decide is like that safe place, and to your spouse. But another part of this is not just accountable to them, but with some sort of accountability software on the devices that you have.
Yeah.
You know, because I would say, I don't know the percent, but I'm sure most people, what they're finding these things on their computers, their phones, their iPads, whatever it is. Cause you know, I think the days of having it be like a magazine or something, or, you know, they're kind of gone, but
it's not really
everything is like tangible right in front of you, on your phone, whatever it is. And so there are accountability software that you can put on your phone. And when you put this on your phone, it is going to alert the person that, you know, your accountability partner or the pastor, counselor, whoever it may be, that, hey, so-and-so has been visiting some questionable sites. And then someone's going to be asking you about that. And sometimes, you know, that when we're that far into an addiction or whatever, you know, a struggle, an addiction, we need very severe accountability.
100%.
You know, and so we wrote down, there's a couple that we've actually either had when we were in college or when we worked at churches, or we've had, you know, some experience with, but one is Covenant Eyes.
Yep.
And then the other one is XXX Church. The name is kind of makes you go, what?
Whoa.
But it's XXX, so it's like literally 3 X's and then church. And these go on your phone, you know, and I think, Julian, you were saying XXX Church has more resources that you saw?
So XXX Church is super cool because they use a software. They have a software that they use. It's not called XXX Church. I forget what it's called at the moment.
But you would find it on
there. Yeah, it's on their website. But if you go to their website, it's actually super cool because they don't just like put software on your phone and then that's it, right? It's software, it's education, it's groups. It's a whole encompassing experience to be able to get free from your addiction, you know? And so I like XXX Church because they take it further than just the software and just accountability. Like there's a lot. You're able to get into these groups that you are able to discuss and talk about what's happening, where it's going. And then they educate what it does to your brain, what it does to your marriages and your relationships and all those things. So I think it's when you're dealing with this and you're actually wanting to get help, I think it's important to be educated on these things so that you know how it's affecting you and how it's affecting the people around you. So I really like XXX Church for that point. Covenant Eyes, we've used it. I mean, working on staff, that's just one of the things that a lot of churches do. They have all the staff just have it on their phones and devices just because, just to help us stay accountable as leaders and stuff like that. Funny story. I had it and I know it works because it was on my computer and I was researching guest speakers to come out to speak at a men's night. And the guest speaker that I was looking at, his website got hacked. And I clicked the inquire to have him come out. I'm sitting in my boss's office now, one of our pastors, right? And we're looking, I click the button and it immediately sends me to a porn site. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I start freaking out and I like almost throw my computer. And immediately he gets, because he was my accountability, he gets an update saying, Julian Garcia has visited a questionable website. And I'm like, I was right here. But
so it works.
Obviously,
the point.
It works.
Yes.
It works really well. So, but it's really cool because it helps keep you accountable to somebody in your life.
Absolutely.
I would suggest having a pastor or a leader, someone who is a mentor over your life, have it go to them. Also, I would suggest have it go to your spouse so that your spouse can keep you accountable.
I mean,
and
I don't know. I feel like it depends.
Okay.
So I think it depends.
Yep.
I mean, and
depends on how your relationship
how the spouse
is
doing with it. And also sometimes I think it's better for it just to go to the male mentor in the beginning.
For sure.
Or female mentor, depending on, because I think I don't want to assume that it's just
totally
the husband. It could be a wife as well. So just, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's all situational.
I think it has to be a case by case, because that may not be best. They may not want, necessarily.
Yeah, they don't want to see all that.
I think that really depends on what's going on and how the spouse is handling it. I wouldn't just assume they want to receive it,
Totally valid.
So it's a case by case. The fourth one, being honest. So be honest. And what do we mean by this? So we've sat with couples multiple times, and, whether it be infidelity or, a betrayal, a different type of betrayal,
Yeah.
And one thing that I think is very, common in all these conversations is that the spouse that is receiving the news or hearing about, whatever this is, the betrayal, the infidelity, addiction.
Yeah.
They want to know, they want honesty right now, and they want it all on the table.
Yeah.
They want all the cards on the table because they want to know what they're dealing with.
Yes.
And they don't want any surprises. Like, they don't want a surprise a month later that this is, more stuff. And so I really think oftentimes, and this would be something too, that if you're working with a counselor or pastor or whoever it may be, they can kind of help navigate this too. But this is a good time to just get it all out there. Your spouse does not want to find out a month or two later that you also are dealing with XYZ, or that you've been talking to whatever. They don't want to find out more information down the road.
Yeah.
This is your time to get it all out on the table. Now, again, situational, probably depending on, this can be a tough conversation.
Yeah.
So navigating this conversation, but I'd say for the most part, it's time to get it all on the table.
It is.
What do you think?
I totally agree. And I would suggest that this be a conversation that you do have with a third party, because I think it's important to have a neutral person to discuss this with.
And this person needs to be neutral. Like, if the wife is the one struggling, it shouldn't be like the husband's mom in the room.
No.
Or the husband's sister, or someone that may be more inclined to take the other spouse's side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that can be super dangerous as well.
For sure.
And that's why oftentimes, a pastor,
a
counselor, a mentor, is really that person, that safe person who they are going to recognize this person is in the wrong. This is not right. But they're also going to, want restoration for this person, and they're going to make sure that the other spouse is safe, and that, that conversation goes well.
So super important. I think, make sure that happens. This is probably one of the most important things when it comes to restoration, especially in your relationships and marriage. Like, if you really want to have restoration, the best thing for you to do is to literally not hide anything else anymore. Take it out, take everything out of your pockets, put it all on the table, and say, here is everything.
Well, and I know that even a counselor, and now obviously all counselors are different, but when we had, people really close to us walking through, it was infidelity, the counselor said, like, we are not leaving here until you tell her everything, and I know that for her, she was like, I'm willing to work on this if I know all of it, but I can't be waiting for the other shoe to drop or for something to happen. And I think that's kind of what happens is spouses then are like, if they feel like they don't know everything, they're like waiting for that.
Well, I mean, they've been betrayed. They've been, lied to. I mean, so there's trust that has to be rebuilt. And the only way to rebuild trust is to put it out on the table and say, all right, here's everything. I need a complete fresh start over.
Yeah.
And you know what? That kind of sucks, but it's important.
Yeah,
you kind of have to do it to be able to get yourself to a place where you can have redemption.
Yeah.
And then also mend your relationship with your spouse.
Yeah. The last one we have for this particular section is hard work and time. I mean, I feel like that's so obvious, but the time passes. This is one thing that I don't know when. I mean, it kind of was a good revelation for me, is that no matter what you choose to do, time passes.
Yep, it does.
No matter what.
No matter what.
you can have a restored marriage and sex life and be free. And so you have to put in that hard work, that time. You can have freedom from, if you feel like you're living in a place of addiction, but it is going to take hard work.
Absolutely.
It's going to take time. It's not like you're going to wake up. Most likely you're not just going to wake up tomorrow. Everything's been forgiven. Everything's done. And you're like free totally and happy and everything's good. And you never think about it again. That is a very unrealistic expectation.
Very.
So it's the hard work.
It is.
And it's every day.
Yep.
And it's a grind,
Well, you have to look at it like, your health of your body. You in order to have a healthy body, what do you have to do? You have to show up. You actually have to show up every single day in some way, right? And you may not be working out every day, but you got to eat right. If you're not, if you're not eating right, you better work out harder. Like there's just different things that you got to do to be able to get yourself to a healthy place with your body. And it's the same exact thing with your mind and your decisions. Like you need to wake up every day and make the decision to say, okay, I'm going to be a better person today. I'm going to make better choices and go down the path that I feel like I'm called to go down. Now, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be uphill a lot of times. Sometimes it's going to feel like it's not even an issue whatsoever. But the best thing for you to do is show up every single day and not give up. And then we're going to move on to like about the spouse and the person who isn't dealing with that and their spouse is doing
So, you're the spouse, your spouse has come to you and you have found something out, or you kind of had an inkling, or you did know, but now they've decided, they're going to get help. The first thing is also for you to get help too. This is also happening to you. You're walking through it. So whether, you get individualized counseling, you have a mentor you can share with, someone who can pray with you, encourage you.
Yeah.
Because it's a hard process for you as well.
For sure.
And then also don't take responsibility for their actions.
Yeah, that's so
I think this
huge.
is hard because I think a lot of times when I'm just going to speak from the female perspective, because I'm a woman, so that's what I know. If we feel, like if your husband is looking at someone else and they're partaking in, watching something where they see other women, that is going to cause some very tough wounds, some very hard,
sure.
it's going to cause some insecurity. It's going to cause some doubt. And so I think it's hard because then we may want to take responsibility for their action. Well, if I would have done this, or if I would have if I looked like this, if I was willing to do this, then maybe they wouldn't have looked at that. And that is just not the path to take.
Yeah.
You didn't do anything wrong. That is their own action. They need to take responsibility for themselves. You don't have to take responsibility for their action. It doesn't mean that there may not be things that you feel like you want to change, but you don't need to take responsibility for their actions.
That's right.
And then the last one is walk in grace the best that you can, and lean on Jesus. I think it's, you won't be able to do this on your own, and it's going to be hard. And anyone I've sat down with who has had a spouse, whether it be, an addiction or infidelity or whatever, it's a daily thing as well for them. It's a battle with their mind. It's a battle for their insecurity, how they feel about their spouse. It's a battle. And so just walking in that grace, not only for your spouse, but for yourself. That's right. When you have those feelings of, man, I don't know if I can do this, or whatever it is, that you have grace with yourself, that you do the best you can to have grace with your spouse, and this will take leaning on Jesus, because the only way that we can really have grace is to be shown grace. And the only way is from God, And so, and this is a heavy thing.
Yeah.
And we've heard it from spouses. We've heard it from people like, this is hard for me. I know my spouse is partaking in this and they don't think it's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's not always an easy conversation to talk about things like this, that are, deep and hard to address sometimes.
For sure. Yep. And I think too, with, walking in grace, when you walk in grace for your spouse, again, you're going to open up the door for them to be able to walk down a path of freedom. Right. Yeah. But when you shame and you push away and you treat them terrible, there's going to be a different reaction. And so we always will tell people, hey, the best thing you can do right now is to show grace and show love.
Yeah.
And I know it hurts and I know it's hard, but you have made a choice to be married to this person, number one. And I think it's important for you to do your very best and give them a chance to have redemption in their life. And the best way you can do that on your side is to have grace and that grace, you're going to be giving a lot. And if you're for the spouse, you're going to be giving a lot of energy towards that grace. But the best thing for you to do is give them grace, but take time for yourself. Go see a counselor. Get yourself in a place where you are getting healthy. Your mind is right. You're not taking on the burdens of the world, because a lot of times when we go through this kind of stuff, we take on the burdens of our spouse, when really that's not really what you're supposed to do in that time. Your job in that moment, the best thing you could do is just be supportive, graceful, and push them towards greatness, right? But don't take on the responsibility. Don't take on the responsibility for their actions and everything that they've done. But I mean, this has been a huge, I mean, there's so much more we can talk about when it comes to this. What I would just suggest, if you have any questions or you're going through this or whatever, please reach out. Like, we would be more than happy to answer questions, help you walk through this as much as possible. Also, like we said before, make sure you actually go and get counseling and talk with somebody, talk with a pastor, talk with a counselor. Be honest with each other. When you're able to do those things, there's going to be freedom for you, but it's important that you even just understand that there's an actual problem that you need to deal with. And when you can deal with them, there's going to be freedom for your life. And so, but like we said, we're going to put some links at the bottom of this, and you're going to be able to click on those links. If this is something you're dealing with, please go to XXX, go to Covenant Eyes, get these things installed, start being honest with somebody. Obviously you guys are all over the place, so find a local counselor, find a local church, whatever you can do to get yourself in the right place.
And you're
right
not
mindset.
alone. I feel like it's one of those things when you start to talk about it, there's going to be other people who are like, have been there, or that happened to me, or I've struggled with that, you know?
And that's why I really like XXX Church, because that's what that is. It's a community of people who have walked through it and they're getting stronger together, you know? And so, and I love that word community. Community is so huge for you, because if you're sitting alone and you're trying to do this alone, it's going to be a lot harder. But when you surround yourself with a community of people who can push you forward, you're going to get out of this a lot faster, better, and come out stronger. And we truly, truly believe that. But we hope that this helped you today. And we hope that we can be a light to you and just encourage you to just be a better version of yourself. Remember, if you're dealing with this stuff, go to these websites, do that. And we want to help you as much as possible. DM us, ask us questions, and we'd be more than happy to answer those questions. But thank you so much. We're running out of time today, but we're going to get back to it again. This is the second episode in a row, so we're excited about that. So get ready for the next one. It's been crazy. We got a lot going on in our lives, so we're a little busy. So we're hustling to try to do as many episodes as possible and
we'd
create
love to
as
hear
much
from
content.
You.
So
if you
please,
have ideas, or topics, or a conversation you'd like us to have.
Please email us info@youngdumbedinlove.com. We would love to hear from you there. DM us, whatever it is you can do to get in touch with us. We would love to be in touch with you. But thank you guys so much for listening, and we can't wait till next time.